Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another episode. Desire with power. How to want without needing. Okay, desire with power. All right. So sometimes, if you're teaching approach, you know how to go up and talk to women and start a conversation and have a nice interaction and maybe get a phone number or a date. There are many criticisms that get leveled at that from different quarters, but one of the ones that gets leveled at it from other men, surprisingly, is along the lines of, well, you are being the supplicator because you are the one going out there, you are the one making the effort, right? You know, you're effectively chasing her, okay? Now, I don't agree with that because for me, I don't really think that walking up to somebody and saying, oh, you look cool, I wanted to come and say hello, is a huge deal. It doesn't take very much time. It's not a huge effort on my part. If she says, oh, well, that's very nice of you, but actually I've got a boyfriend, you know, the interaction's lasted less than a minute, we say goodbye, and that's it, right? I don't feel that detracts from me in any meaningful way. That's just me. Maybe others disagree. Okay, but the point though is, and this is a point that's been made many times before, I'll address it slightly differently here. The point really is that we want to be containing our desire, okay? So obviously, and again, this goes for dating apps as well, slightly different dynamic there, but still, yes, obviously you swipe on her because you think she's attractive. Obviously, yes, you approach her in the bar because you think she's attractive, yes. So in that sense, you are showing your hand a little bit, because if you didn't make any move towards her at all, she might assume you don't think she's attractive. If you do make some sort of move towards her, she is aware that you find her attractive. But actually owning that is a really powerful thing to do, okay? And this is why, for the most part, we encourage guys to be direct when they approach, and rather than sort of starting with some conversational gambit like, oh, where's Starbucks, or oh, you know, that's a really interesting painting, do you know anything about the history of it, and sort of try to wheedle your way in. Actually, there's a kind of power in just saying, hey, listen, I think you're attractive, I wanted to come and talk to you, and then letting the chips fall where they may, okay? And the chips may fall with her saying, well, actually, thank you, but I'm not interested. And that's fine. It's a small sting for the ego, it's a small blip, it doesn't really matter, it's no big deal. Who really cares in the big scheme of things? You know, life, it's very easy to sort of overemphasize these things and imagine life as being this huge power battle, you know, where you have to win at all times. And it really isn't, because with things like that, nobody really cares. She's going to have forgotten about it by the evening. You're going to have forgotten about it by the evening or the next day. Nobody's really lost anything. It doesn't matter, okay? But on a broader level, you want to contain your desire. So yes, the desire is present, okay? We can admit that. The desire is present because you have approached her, right? You've started a conversation because you think she's pretty, you think she's cute, you think she's attractive, whatever. So yes, there is desire there. However, that desire is contained. You don't need her, all right? You don't need her response to be positive. And that's the significant thing. That's the really important thing. You don't need it. You don't need her acquiescence. You don't need her acceptance of you to feel anything meaningful about your life. Now, we were talking about this yesterday on a live stream I did with James, and James was saying to me, you know, how do you feel now about rejection, having obviously, you know, approached many, probably thousands of times, and, you know, been rejected and been accepted and had successes and had failures and stuff. How do you feel about rejection? And I would say, in answer to that, truthfully, right now, I don't feel that it invalidates my self-worth, okay? Probably in the past, I would have felt that. There were certainly times in my ill-spent youth when I absolutely would have felt that somebody rejecting me meant something existential about me, you know? That somebody rejecting me meant, well, I mean, I had this wrong-headed idea that if one woman rejected me, then it was likely that there were characteristics about me that, you know, she didn't like, that other women also wouldn't like, and therefore I'd probably just get rejected by all the other women as well, and therefore I was worthless and unlovable and blah, blah, blah. Of course, that's a very naive view, and it was fostered by the fact that I hadn't had much experience in life, and I hadn't, you know, traveled very much, I hadn't lived in big cities and so on and so forth. You know, when you actually get out into the world and actually engage with a lot more people, what you realize is that women do have very varied tastes. And I think Mark Manson said something along the lines of, in order to be electrifying for one woman, you have to be a joke to another. And that's true, right? There is this thing about polarization. So there are some women who just think I'm amazing for whatever reason. I mean, you know, you probably think they're insane, but incredibly it's true. And then there are other women who absolutely don't, okay? And it's not really correlated to their attractiveness. It's not really correlated to anything. It's kind of random. It's, you know, you don't really know until you meet somebody if you're going to have that chemistry, if you're going to have that vibe, if you're going to have that connection, okay? And so now, especially when you get to my age, because all of this stuff starts to matter less as you get older anyway. You know, things that seem life or death when you're 18, 19, 20, 21 now seem like a blip, all right? They just don't seem that important. You know, I could be in a cafe and I could talk to the barista and I could say, oh, you know, I think you're attractive, maybe we can grab a drink sometime. And she says, no, actually, sorry, no, I'm seeing somebody or whatever. Who cares, right? I mean, really, who cares? Does it matter? No. Has it taken up much of my time? No. Has it eradicated my self-esteem? No. Does it mean anything about my inherent worth as a human being? No. Okay? So I would say that I've reached that point of sort of Zen-like stoicism about it. It just doesn't matter to me that much, really. I'm not saying I like it. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, if you see somebody you really like them and then they reject you, that's a pleasant thing. I mean, obviously it's not, and it can sometimes sting a little bit for a short period of time, but it's not really a big deal. There are far worse things going on in the world than that. There are far worse things that one can encounter in life than that, okay? But trying to get back to the topic at hand is that you need to, yes, desire is fine. Desire is fine. Desire is natural. Desire is part of being a man. It's part of being a woman, okay? We desire one another, okay? But you also don't want to be ruled by that desire. And you don't want to place too much importance on that desire. And, you know, the way through that really is having a sense of abundance, or having an abundance mentality, as they say. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be dating loads of different people if you don't want to be, but it does mean that you want to be at least confident that you have the chops to be able to go out and meet new people and bring them into your life, whether that's through the apps or through meeting people in real life or Instagram or whatever it is. You want to have the ability to be able to do that, okay? And that massively reduces the importance of each of these things. So, of course, yeah, you're at a party, you see an attractive girl, you feel desire, you go and talk to her. Hopefully it works out. But if it doesn't, you're not crushed by it, okay? Because you know your own worth. You know that inherently it means nothing, absolutely nothing about your actual value as a human being. And you know, furthermore, that you can go on and meet other people who are going to be more accepting, who are just going to be feeling your vibe more, okay? So that's the way you want to come at this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. do give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe to the channels. If you're interested in coaching, the email address is below. Drop me an email, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.